Have you ever stopped to think about why it seems we are surrounded by increasingly difficult people? People who explode for any reason, who can't accept no for an answer, who turn any conversation into a conflict? If you have this feeling, you're not imagining things. According to renowned coach Mel Robbins, we are living through a silent epidemic of toxic behavior, and there's a very specific explanation for it. What's happening in our society isn't accidental. It's the direct result of an entire generation that has completely lost the ability for emotional self-regulation. We've never had so much access to information about mental health, therapy, and personal development. But paradoxically, we've never had so many people incapable of dealing with basic frustration, simple boundaries, and elementary personal responsibility. If this observation is already making sense to you, consider subscribing to the channel, because what you're about to discover in the next few minutes will explain not only why this is happening, but also how you can protect yourself and avoid becoming part of this worrying statistic. The first thing we need to understand is that behavioral toxicity doesn't appear out of nowhere, like a bolt from the blue. It is cultivated, nurtured, and reinforced by specific patterns that have become normalized in our culture. Mel Robbins identified that toxicity grows exponentially when emotions are systematically outsourced to other people. When personal frustrations are not processed internally, when any kind of emotional discomfort is interpreted as a direct personal threat, and when healthy boundaries are automatically seen as hostile attacks. The fundamental problem, she points out, is devastating. An alarming number of people simply haven't learned to regulate their own emotions in a mature and healthy way. Instead, they've learned to unload all this unprocessed emotional energy directly onto other people. Instead of developing internal mechanisms to cope with pain, disappointment, and frustration, they project these feelings onto others. Instead of taking responsibility for their own feelings and reactions, they systematically blame the external world for all their internal suffering. If you recognize these patterns and consciously choose a different path, leave a comment saying, "I choose maturity," because this simple stance already puts you completely outside the current behavioral average. The first crucial factor Mel Robbins highlights is what she calls the culture of immediate reaction. We are living in an era where responding quickly, unfiltered, and without reflection has become a distorted synonym for authenticity and emotional honesty. But here's the problem. Reacting impulsively is not emotional maturity. It's simply impulsivity that has been socially normalized and even celebrated. Social media has created an environment where emotionally exaggerated behaviors are systematically rewarded with likes, shares, and attention. The algorithms of digital platforms have been programmed to amplify conflict, drama, and extreme reactions because this generates more engagement. The more intense the reaction, the more visibility it receives. The more polarized the opinion, the more people stop to comment. Mel Robbins makes a fundamental warning. The less pause there is between stimulus and response, the more toxic behavior appears in the environment. When people react before thinking, they often hurt others without even realizing the impact of their words and actions. The speed of reaction has become more valued than the quality of the response, creating a vicious cycle where impulsivity is confused with sincerity. The second factor identified by Mel Robbins is even more problematic: a complete lack of emotional responsibility. A growing number of people are confusing being authentic with being aggressive or being brutally honest. They use their personal traumas, difficult experiences, and emotional triggers as a kind of license to hurt other people without consequences. They justify clearly toxic and destructive behaviors hidden behind psychological and emotional labels. They say things like, "That's just how I am. I'm just being honest. I can't help it. It was my childhood." Or, "You're just too sensitive." But Mel Robbins is absolutely clear on this point. Painful experiences explain behaviors, but never justify them. Trauma explains why someone might have certain reactions, but it doesn't give them the right to hurt other people. Without genuine emotional responsibility, personal pain doesn't transform into healing and growth. It simply spreads like a virus, infecting relationships, work environments, and entire communities. The wounded person becomes the wounder. perpetuating a destructive cycle that could be broken with awareness and personal responsibility. The third factor that massively contributes to the increase in social toxicity is the completely weakened boundaries and excessive guilt associated with self-care. We live in a culture where establishing healthy boundaries is often interpreted and labeled as selfishness, coldness, or lack of empathy. When someone says no to an excessive demand, when they refuse to be treated disrespectfully, or when they choose to protect themselves from abusive behavior, they are often criticized for not being understanding enough or not being empathetic. This distorted dynamic has created an environment where people with invasive, manipulative, and abusive tendencies can operate freely because they know they can use guilt as a tool of control. They invade personal spaces, pressure to get what they want, manipulate emotionally, and when they finally receive a clear boundary or a firm no, they immediately position themselves as misunderstood victims. On the other hand, people prone to excessive guilt become perfect targets for this type of manipulation because they have been conditioned to believe that protecting their own peace of mind and well-being is a form of cruelty. Mel Robbins teaches something fundamental. Setting boundaries isn't a form of punishment directed at another person. It's an essential form of self-care and protection of one's own mental and emotional health. Now, even if you don't personally identify with these toxic behaviors, even if you're someone who strives to act with maturity and emotional responsibility, it still affects you directly and deeply. You interact with such people in your work environment, where colleagues explode in meetings, can't accept feedback, and create a climate of constant tension. You encounter these behaviors in your family, where relatives use emotional blackmail, make a drama out of simple situations, and turn family gatherings into emotional battlefields. You face this in your personal relationships, where friends or partners react disproportionately, don't respect your boundaries, and make you feel responsible for their feelings. The real risk isn't necessarily that you'll become like these people. The risk is that you'll adapt so much to these toxic behaviors that they become your new normal. When you normalize toxic behavior around you, when you accept being treated disrespectfully as if it were normal, when you take responsibility for the feelings of other people who should be responsible for themselves, you gradually disconnect from your own internal compass of dignity and self-respect. If you recognize this dynamic and refuse to normalize toxicity, leave a comment saying, "I don't normalize toxic behavior." This reinforces your emotional awareness and your determination to maintain healthy patterns. Another crucial aspect that Mel Robbins addresses is how instant gratification has completely shaped our ability to cope with frustration and delay. We live in an era where virtually everything can be obtained immediately. Food delivered in minutes, endless entertainment available instantly, real-time communication with anyone in the world, online purchases arriving the same day. This constant availability has created a generation of people who have literally lost the ability to tolerate any kind of discomfort, delay, or frustration. When something doesn't happen immediately, when someone doesn't respond at the expected speed, when a result takes longer than anticipated, the emotional reaction is disproportionate and often directed at other people. Patience has become a rare skill, and the ability to cope with uncertainty has become a superpower. People who haven't developed a tolerance for frustration become emotionally explosive for reasons that, objectively, are trivial. Deficient emotional education also plays a key role in this epidemic of toxic behavior. Many people grew up in environments where they never learned to name, process, or regulate their emotions in a healthy way. Instead of learning that feelings are temporary, informative, and manageable, they learned that emotions are emergencies that need to be immediately resolved by other people. They haven't developed the ability to sit with emotional discomfort, to breathe through difficult feelings, or to distinguish between feeling something and acting on that feeling. As a result, every intense emotion becomes a crisis that needs to be externalized. Every frustration becomes someone's fault, and every disappointment becomes evidence that the world is being unfair to them. Mel Robbins also points to an interesting phenomenon: the culture of victimhood as identity. Many people have found that constantly assuming the role of the misunderstood victim gives them social power, attention, and the ability to avoid personal responsibility. When someone always positions themselves as the wronged party in every situation, when they interpret constructive feedback as a personal attack, when they transform normal conflicts into evidence of persecution, that person manages to manipulate social dynamics in their favor. Others begin to walk on eggshells around them, avoid giving honest opinions, and assume emotional responsibility that is not theirs. This unconscious strategy works in the short term, but it is absolutely destructive to personal growth and genuine relationships. Constant comparison on social media intensifies all these problems. When people see edited and carefully curated versions of others' lives, when they compare their behind-the-scenes moments with other people's highlights, when they measure their personal worth based on digital metrics like likes and followers, it creates a constant state of inadequacy and resentment. This resentment often manifests as toxic behavior directed at those closest to them, who become convenient targets for frustrations that are actually about much deeper issues of self-esteem and purpose. A lack of purpose and meaning also contributes significantly to toxic behaviors. When people lack a clear direction, meaningful goals, or a sense of contribution to something larger than themselves, all available emotional energy ends up being directed towards interpersonal dramas, unnecessary conflicts, and exaggerated emotional reactions. Without a greater focus, small problems become gigantic, and relationships become the only stage where they feel they have any power or control. What makes this whole situation even more complex is that we live in a culture that often rewards and even celebrates certain aspects of toxicity. Dramatic behaviors receive attention. Extreme reactions generate views. Conflicts create engagement. People who act in a balanced, mature, and responsible way are often ignored, while those who create constant drama become the center of attention. This creates a perverse incentive where toxic behavior is inadvertently reinforced by social attention. So, given this challenging scenario, how do you protect yourself and avoid becoming part of this worrying statistic? Mel Robbins offers practical and powerful strategies. First, develop a conscious pause between stimulus and response. When something bothers you, before reacting, breathe, count to 10, and ask yourself, what is the real problem here? What do I want to achieve with my response? How can I respond in a way that reflects who I want to be? Second, take full responsibility for your feelings and reactions. Stop waiting for the world to adjust to your emotions and start developing your ability to internally regulate how you feel. Third, establish clear boundaries and maintain them consistently, even when other people try to make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. Practice direct but respectful communication. Instead of exploding or suppressing, learn to express your needs and discomforts clearly and constructively. Develop tolerance for frustration by treating minor discomforts as opportunities for emotional strengthening, rather than emergencies that need to be resolved immediately. Cultivate relationships with people who also value emotional maturity and personal responsibility, because the social environment you choose has a huge impact on your own development. Society has increasingly more toxic people because it has fewer and fewer emotionally responsible and mature people. Fewer and fewer people who take the necessary pause between feeling and acting. Fewer and fewer people who establish and respect healthy boundaries. Fewer and fewer people who take full responsibility for their own feelings and reactions. But here's the good news. You don't have to become part of that alarming statistic. When you consciously choose mental clarity instead of emotional reaction, when you set firm boundaries instead of accepting disrespect, when you act consciously instead of impulsively, you automatically become an exception in a world full of toxic behavior. And exceptional people have the power to transform the environments where they are present. You can't control how other people choose to behave. You can't force other people to mature emotionally. You can't compel the whole world to become healthier. But you have complete control over your own position in this world, over how you choose to respond to challenges, over what kind of energy you bring to each situation. And that control you have over yourself is already enough power to create a significantly better life and genuinely healthy relationships.